going to have another adventure in music. In 20th century, the unbelievable adventure is jazz. What is jazz? In the documentary, the parts of the documentary that we are going to watch today, what is jazz will be explained by different jazz people, and how it all started. Of course, it had a lot of different backgrounds. Jazz music had a lot of different backgrounds, but most and foremost is the African traditions and African drumming, African rhythms, the whole African culture is the background of jazz. But why did it happen in the United States? Why didn't happen in South America, for instance? This will be explained in the documentaries that we are going to watch now. Jazz music has influenced a great deal of classically trained composers and musicians throughout the 20th century, but especially in the first part of the 20th century, first 20 years, first 25 years, were the most crazily influential time of jazz, not only in the United States, but also in Europe. The first creators were the black people in the United States. But very soon, quite rapidly, the black people's music, the black people's influence have a strong influence on the whites of the north of the United States. I mean, the jazz music have been created and started in the south of the United States, mainly in New Orleans. But then it moved up to Chicago, and then it moved to east to New York. And we see that white people also adapt and adopt this new kind of trend. Then different kinds of evolution have made this kind of music, the blacks' music, become almost whites' music also. But before we go any further, maybe we shall start with the documentary, which will tell us the beginnings of jazz. It wasn't called jazz in the beginning. It was completely something else. It had the influence of the black slaves of the South, the black slaves' chants, working chants, the slaves who were working on the cotton fields, singing together, or the prisoners, the black prisoners, again singing in a sort of chorus which will make their working somehow bearable and their prisoner's life somehow bearable. And the special kind of song that is being created by by the lowest of the low classes of the blacks, which was called the blues. Blues were the lamentation of their hardships, of their hard lives and their tragedies, everyday tragedies and everyday hardships, living as a slave. And also it had the influence of the church, white people's church, of course, the Baptist church, where there were the evangelists singing and the choral singing of the church. And at the same time, around the environment of New Orleans, there was the music of the Caribbean islands, of the Latin American islands, the music of the old French, Creole music. You know, this was such a salad. It was such a mixture of all sorts of influences, sort of creating something completely new and innovative. So we'll start with the documentary and have an idea about the beginnings of jazz.
The remarkable men and women who created jazz came from every part of the country and every walk of life. But they could all do something which most people can only dream of: create art on the spot. A sometime pimp and full-time ladies' man from New Orleans, a pianist of startling originality, who falsely claimed to have invented jazz, but who really was the first to show that it could be written down. The pampered son of middle-class parents, who turned a whole orchestra of extraordinary musicians into his own personal instrument, wrote nearly 2,000 pieces of music for it to play, and in the process became America's greatest composer. A Russian Jewish immigrant's boy from the Chicago slums, who was taught the clarinet just to keep him out of trouble, but who grew up to teach a whole country how to dance. The troubled daughter of a Baltimore housemaid, whose distinctive style of singing transcended the limitations of her own voice, and routinely transformed mediocre music into great art. The son of a Pullman chef from Kansas City, Missouri, who came to New York to launch a musical revolution, proudly led it for a time, and then destroyed himself at 34. A dentist's difficult son from East St. Louis, Illinois, whose lifelong search for new ways to sound made him the most influential musician of his generation. And then there was the fatherless waif from the streets of New Orleans, whose unrivaled genius helped turn jazz into a soloist's art, who influenced every singer, every instrumentalist, every artist who came after him, and who for more than 5 decades made everyone who heard him feel that no matter how bad things got, everything was bound to turn out all right, after all.
And yet, who knows very much of what jazz is really about? Or how shall we ever know until we are willing to consider everything which it sweeps across our path? Ralph Ellison.
The slaves singing together and playing the drums. Where did it all come from? Of course, it came from Africa. Now we have to see how that came over from Africa to the coast of the United States. In Africa, we still have the I mean, the Africans still have the same kind of drumming and singing going on. Drumming is very, very important in all over Africa. It's a matter of information, it's a matter of communication. Drumming has been, all through the history, was a way of communicating with other tribes or the members of the same tribe. It's kind of a, you know, cell phone business even. It's like that. They communicate, and at the same time they tell stories with their drumming. Drumming is not only the rhythm itself, but it has meanings. Every single rhythm and every single combination of these rhythms have meanings, different meanings. And the combinations are very, very complicated. As we can see here, did we find it? Mm-hmm. All right, now this is from Mali. It's not written music, of course. It's improvised, but at the same time it has specific rules. It's not without rules, but it's still at the same time improvised. Now, the same thing goes on, for instance, in South America, especially in Uruguay. Why in Uruguay? Because in Uruguay, most specifically in Montevideo, there are still remnants of the old African tribes living in different parts of the city. They are from Congo, some of them from Congo, again some of them from Mali, interestingly, and some of them are from Mozambique. But these people came to the South America